So it's Juneteenth at the time of this recording, and I thought it would be great to refer to one of my favorite R&B songs that came out roughly around this time 24 years ago. The song is Blackberry Molasses, and it's by the late 90s all-male group Mista. Given the sensitive time period we're in, especially with the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests and the questioning of policing and police brutality in general, I feel it's worth taking a look back at this song and how it pertains to America's underclass, as well as marginalized minorities, both ridden with the negative effects of poverty. So without further ado, let's begin.
Blackberry molasses, one of the things that never change. You gotta keep pushing on, the sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain.
Already we can get a sense of a building allegory, in which molasses is meant to represent something. It's worth acknowledging the viscosity of molasses, as due to its thick and heavy nature, the syrup runs slow. If one were an insect, it would prove difficult to escape from such contents. Blackberry molasses, or molasses in general, is meant to represent the difficulties of life, and as the chorus mentions, a common theme in many people's lives, if not an inherent part of life, is the struggle, no matter how big or small. The lines mentioning the sun and rain use a unique play on homophones, which lends itself in two different aspects. Interpreting the line as, "the sun don't rain," as in rule, effectually serves to say that the sun, the symbol of light and goodness, is not a beacon that will be in our lives all day, every day. Interpreting the line as, "the sun don't rain," as in precipitation, effectually says the same thing. However, the word rain isn't used as some sort of depressive tool to set a milieu of despair, at least in this line, but to also convey that sunshine, the rays of sunlight, isn't always as abundant some days. The image I see that's being built here is that rainfall sometimes covers an entire region. Likening sunshine to the same properties of this rainfall makes it seem as sunshine, the symbol of light and goodness, is sparse and mixed with the unfortunate realities of life. This sets the tone, as the next line assures the listener that there will be hardships in life. Now, let's examine the first verse.
Woke up Sunday morning, got a little bad news today. They say my life ain't worth living, and time is slowly ticking away. Don't think that I'm going crazy, 'cause thoughts they running through my head. I know I gotta be strong, gotta hold on. Sometimes I'd rather give up instead. Seems like I'm better off dead.
These particular lines are very, very impactful to me. Let's unpack this. Every time I listen to this song, I'm puzzled by the significance of waking up on a Sunday morning. This could be a religious reference, as in the Christian faith, Sundays are for worship. But that seems too easy and could just be chalked up to an experience the songwriter had one Sunday morning. But then I went on to explore some more. When I saw the music video recorded by Hype Williams for Blackberry Molasses, it's clear that the environment was that of a dilapidated neighborhood, seemingly inflicted with poverty. As seen with the old brick buildings, dry, unkept grass, it's the classic vision of the gentrified neighborhood. The neighborhood that's largely forgotten, in light of recent progress. I needed this visual just to give me an idea of the environment and its potential importance to the song, as the music video is intentional with its imagery, given how the characters also act out the lyrics they describe. Returning to the lyrics, it is mentioned that our narrator, upon waking up, received bad news today. That an unnamed they have said that the narrator's life isn't worth living. This is the part that intrigued me. Who is they, and where did this news come from? I think it's worth examining the time period in which this song came out. Blackberry Molasses was released on June 18th of 1996. During this time, inner cities and so-called urban areas, a euphemism for Black and Hispanic areas, were experiencing high crime rates as well as the effects of police brutality and poverty. This, of course, all is in the United States, just to provide more context. At the time, President Bill Clinton and the First Lady, Hillary Clinton, pushed for a new proposed bill that would increase policing in these areas. There was also a socio-psychological term that was being pushed in the media and in Congress, and this term was the super predator.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel, and the President has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. Born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized.
Criminologist and political scientist John J. DiIulio Jr. came up with the term after examining data for violent crime trends, much of which was attributed to young people of color in the United States. It was often contextualized that these individuals had no morals and exhibited sociopathic traits. As a result, lawmakers pushed for tough-on-crime legislations on juvenile offenders. The fear was that there was going to be a high wave of crime, particularly perpetrated by colored youth, when the century had turned over to the 2000s. This, of course, created a stigma that resulted in colored juvenile offenders of any crime typically receiving longer and harsher sentences. DiIulio Jr. has since retracted his statements on this phenomenon, as the data and alternative hypotheses have largely contradicted his predictions. However, the stigma and the effects of over-policing had already done its course around society. I see the unnamed they in this song that the narrator refers to as being the media and politicians. The media, after hearing this super predator term, latched on to the fear that it invoked. Politicians from both sides of the aisle, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, contributed to the dehumanization of these individuals by essentially saying that the effects that caused such violent individuals to exist were second fiddle, as the main goal was to bring these so-called super predators to heel, i.e., mass imprisonment. Anyway, back to the lyrics. The chorus repeats itself once again before going on to a new verse.
Don't tell me how to live my life after all that we've been through. Don't wanna hear about your hardship, 'cause I've been there myself a time or two. Still life goes on if you just keep holding on. It ain't just a fight, want to realize there's no such place as paradise, at least in my eyes.
The youth of this generation, as well as the people of this afflicted class, have had to deal with hardships. The simple saying of pulling oneself up by one's bootstraps serves only as a platitude. Marginalized people, sadly, must deal with the remnants of an oppressive system, while those at the top can point at the progressions made in history as an excuse for such systems seemingly no longer existing. I view the narrator in this verse from 2 different perspectives. The first perspective I have would be a youth filled with angst against life. This youth is going through struggles of his own and couldn't give a damn what others who do not share his pain think. This youth has shared comparable minor struggles to those who attempt to relate with him, along with greater struggles. In another sense that more so relates to socioeconomics, those who are marginalized have a profound sense of social pain that cannot merely be understood by those with different lives. A lifetime of experience, being born into your own despair, is a unique qualia in and of itself. Our narrator, perhaps in a sanguine sense, tells us that despite all of these hardships, one must keep living and pushing through the molasses, a thick struggle that can be described as bittersweet. I find the music video, especially the ending, to be rather beautiful. Earlier I mentioned the homophone play on the words rain as in precipitation and rain as in to rule over something. But here in the music video you see youth of different types, different colors, and presumably different races, all dancing in the precipitation. Despite the dull colors, people are nevertheless having a particularly cheerful time. Precipitation here, given the background, probably serves as a depressive tool, contributing to a milieu of despair, i.e. the dark times in life. But nevertheless, it's contrasted by these youth dancing. So I guess this also ties into the whole narrator having a sanguine view about, the future, his life, and a bittersweet take on, struggle in life in general. So yeah. Anyway, that's just my take on Blackberry Molasses by Mista. Thank you for viewing this video, and happy Juneteenth.